How's it going, YouTube? My name is Christian with Plan Your Federal Retirement, back with another video with our All About FERS segment. And just a couple of weeks ago, I was meeting with one of my clients and they asked me, hey, Christian, how do I double my TSP so I feel better about my retirement? And it kind of had me thinking about all the other times I've been asked a similar version of that question. How do I maximize my TSP? How do I have more in the future in my TSP? So what we went through and what I shared is we need to focus on what we can control, right? We shouldn't be spending mental energy and time focused on the things that we can't control. And so we went through all those things we can control, like our tax planning strategy, our ability to put more in, how are we invested, right? Those are the things that we'll chat a little bit about today, kind of at a broad level. And then all the things that we can't control, what Congress is going to pass with certain tax laws, what the feds are going to do with interest rates, jobs, labor's report, all those things are things we can't control, right? Let's not focus our time and attention on them, although they're sometimes kind of fun to talk about. So that's what I shared with that client, and we went through it. And we dived a little deeper into their plan and gave investment advice. And so in today's video, if you feel compelled to make any changes to your overall financial plan, I recommend you consult with your trusted advisor to make those changes. If you're selling funds and buying, trading, that kind of thing, make sure you talk with your advisor, because today I'm not going to be going through investment advice. We got to save that for your advisor to go and apply this to your unique situation. All right, without further ado, the first thing I would recommend would be cash flow. Cash flow is so important as we plan, how can we double our TSP? Why is cash flow important? Well, if we understand how much money comes in every month net, how much of that gets spent, now we can have a forecast on what our retirement spending will be and what our sources of income need to be to reach that spending, right? Between our FERS pension, between Social Security, between TSP withdrawals. If we understand that, now we can also look at it from cash flow from the perspective on the month-to-month basis to say, are we spending in areas we shouldn't be? Is there any fat that can be trimmed that we can be putting more away into the TSP or other investments? So if you're not maxing your TSP, here's a time frame to be looking at it to say, where can I be saving more from my spending so that I can put more away? If you're already maxing your TSP, that would be looking at different, IRA accounts or brokerage accounts, or maybe even 529s for kids' education, right? I'm encouraging you to save more. That's what's going to be able to help you increase your ability to have more in your TSP, to double your TSP, is putting more away, right? The next place would be dollar cost averaging, DCA, dollar cost averaging. This is huge. And the fact that you guys are able to put into your retirement accounts, into the TSP every 2 weeks, is very, very important and something that shouldn't be overlooked. And so what this means is, with investments, that there's the risk that we're buying at the wrong time, right? That we bought high and in the future we might sell low, right? That's kind of the opposite of what we want to have happen. Dollar cost averaging says that we're investing into the market in different intervals. In your case, 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, we're putting new dollars in so that if the market is flat, we're buying. If the market is down, we're buying. If the market is up, we're buying constantly. That spreads out that risk that we're trying to time the market or buying at the wrong time. It works if we don't put our money in cash, right? If we're buying into the G fund, that plan didn't really work. But if we're buying into the market between the CS and I funds, now we have more impact on our dollar cost averaging plan, right? The next thing, this ties into the next point, which would be your buckets plan or your buckets strategy. We talk about buckets a lot in our podcast, and we've done some videos on it as well. So make sure you check those out. But very simply, when buckets are tied to our investments, and there's 3 buckets that we utilize to plan your investments. The first 2 aren't actually invested in the market, and the third is. The first is cash. The second is income. The third is our growth bucket. So the TSP equivalent of a cash bucket, that would be your G fund. The TSP equivalent of your income would be the F fund, and then growth would be C, S, and I funds. And life cycle funds can kind of be mixed in between those. And so when it comes to investments, our rule is that any money that we plan to spend in the next 5 years doesn't belong in the stock market. Think back to what happened in 2008 when the market took 5 years to recover from 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, all the way to 2013. So not a good time when we needed to retire or buy a house or whatever we needed money for to sell your stocks at a loss, right? That's what we're trying to avoid here. So with our bucket strategy, what we're saying is the opposite, that any money that we don't plan to spend in the next 5 years, well, maybe that should be more earmarked for growth. And that's what I want you guys to focus on in your own personal situation is what's your timeline on when you're going to be needing this money and when you're going to retire. If you're years and years and years away from retirement, probably makes sense to put a lot of your money into the market. In fact, we can't have our TSP double if it's just in cash or bonds, right? We have to be invested in the market. So then the next piece to this is going to be having money that goes in our traditional TSP versus Roth TSP. This is huge with what we can control. We can control from a tax perspective where our dollars are going, and that has a great impact in the future when we actually pull this money out. So traditional, this money is pre-tax, right? That's the normal TSP versus Roth. That money is put in with after-tax dollars. And that means that when you take money out of a Roth account, you won't owe any taxes on that ever again, which is really nice. And so, for example, if we put, let's say, $15,000 into our traditional IRA versus $15,000 in our Roth IRA, what's going to have a bigger impact and what's actually worth more? $15,000 in our Roth IRA means we won't ever, when we need to take that money out, we won't be paying taxes on it. So that's worth more than $15,000 in a traditional IRA or traditional TSP, because $15,000, that's taxable. We still need to pay taxes on it when we withdraw from it. So if we're changing our investment strategy a little bit, maybe we consider putting more dollars into Roth, shifting from traditional pre-tax over into Roth, and being able to actually put more away as a result of that because we're prepaying the taxes. And this could even go further as we're looking at money that we already have in traditional. We've talked lots at length about doing Roth conversions where we're actually purposefully taking money that's in this traditional account, paying the taxes on it and moving it to a Roth account as well. So the last thing I would say, we got to stay the course. When it comes to investments, again, what I've shared is there's things that we can control, and then there's things that we just simply can't control. I know it's hard at times to say, well, we have to separate the emotions from the investments, but that's ultimately what a financial advisor's job is to do, is to create that financial plan for you so that you don't make those emotional decisions that could really devastate your financial plan. If it just meant every time you saw something in the news that was negative, we sold or we bought, right? We can't just make those reactionary decisions, right? So hopefully this is helpful as we're looking for ways to double our TSP. Hopefully you found something here that was helpful for you guys. If you have a question related to anything of what I've talked about, make sure you leave that question below in the comment section. Make sure you're subscribed to our channel so you get our latest videos and content that we put out. And if you want an initial consultation with one of our advisors, including myself, go ahead and request an appointment at planyourfederalretirement.com, and we'll be happy to go through your situation and apply this to you. And until next time, happy planning.